Elite. Hello, Team Zone Action. And thank you. Thank you for being here. For everyone that's new, hello as well. And welcome to a very heart-centered, integrous, forward-thinking, innovative movement where we're constantly figuring out how we rise in our level of mastery. So as we start the week on this Monday, there's like much happening. Big shout out to the movement. We are close to doing 12 Real Raw Opens a day. Starting next week, we're going to be doing close to 110 in the month of November. So for everyone that is running Real Raw Opens, looking to run Real Raw Opens, we have expanded our dates. Please reach out to Gina and or Derek, and they're going to support you in getting started. As we bring it into like sections of the formula, for you, where's your focus? Where are you rising your mastery? What does that look like on this Monday? What is your one commitment, or two, or three, all good? What are you committing to rise in your mastery this week? And I hear wind and whispers and birds out in the distance. Mr. Callaghan, is that you?
That is, sir. From the land of the rising.
The land of the rising. Yes. No, boy, 6:30 your time.
Yes. So after going to bed at about 4 a.m. Eastern time. So
yes.
Not on a lot of sleep right now. So hello to everybody. We're going to have an incredible doozy of a huddle tomorrow. Today, we're going to pre-frame it, but lean into some beautiful, incredible things. So good morning on this ecosystem merger and mastery Monday. It is November. It is definitely weird. It gets weirder, and certainly is in the world. And the question is, what is that creating for you? What is it creating emotionally? What is it causing in your happiness or sadness? What's it doing to your nervous system? And all these questions are essentially, how's your self-mastery? Self-mastery being defined as your ability to keep yourself in zone action. And everything that we do is either an act of love or cry for help. Where do you feel right now that you're at? Scale 1 to 10 on 10 being pure acts of love, 0 being complete cries for help. How are you doing? How are you sitting in your self-mastery? How are you doing with your blame and your judgment? And how are you doing with your unconditional love with boundaries? So quick check-in on this ecosystem merger mastery Monday. And as we talked about for a while now, social media does not equal truth. And just come off the Tony Robbins spiritual trip, we'll enter this way a little bit. What if everything is just literally a story? Right? Literally. And we're even getting into some crazy stuff what if we're not our thoughts? What if we're not our feelings? What if we're even not our body? And we're just our soul. And what if everybody was functioning that way right now with regard to what's happening? On the one hand. On the other hand, if we're just sitting in that space of enlightenment, sitting in the space of contemplation of all things, then some other people come take our things, like our houses, our bank accounts. We got to pay mortgage or rent, right? I have to do. So the initial check-in is how we're really doing, sitting in the space of loving ourselves, loving other people, unconditioning boundaries, and most importantly, controlling what we can control. Right? Now, this is real. Somebody last night literally offered to pay Callaghan Law to begin to intercede in the election, and was, telling me facts, person with a lot of influence, person who had high, ranking relatives and relative in the CIA. Was talking about amazing things and incredibly interesting things that I couldn't even begin to realize to think about. And so, now, for me, coming up this morning, like, so I'm saying self-mastery is don't pay attention. Well, now I got to pay attention. I don't have to, but like, I could actually do something, you know? But if right now your decision is to say, well, I could pray in one way or the other. I can cause people to raise energy to do something, or cause people to expose things for reasons not to do things, right? Those are all very reasonable considerations. But for me, the question would be, right, a healthy, balancing comparison of what can you really do for any of these causes today, each week, whether it be charitable, political, right? And how does that fit in intentionally into your life, not emotionally, not reactively? I had the privilege of hearing Eckhart Tolle speak this weekend, and he had a beautiful opening presentation. Who wrote The Power of Now? He's considered to be, in terms of spirituality, in a ranking which is sort of odd, ironic, and weird to me and everybody. Of course, Tony jokes about that, like the idea of like ranking spirituality. But he was listed head of the Dalai Lama on one listing, and Oprah's done 10-part series with him, unprecedented thing that she's like never done. And so he talked about like his work, and he framed it as Tony's work being, mostly all about doing, but not unaware of being. Like, so all about doing, but not unaware of being. And Eckhart Tolle said his work was all about being, but not unaware of doing. And it was a really brilliant and beautiful account, much of which is related to his book, The Power of Now, which they're a reminder very powerfully, brilliantly, of the difference between our being and our doing, and so I want to like hold that. So for today, that's point one. Point two, we're talking about more of these tomorrow, is sometimes the things that happen we create our meaning, our story, seem disappointing, to horrifically painful, to shocking, and just like, how and why can this happen, to unbelievable and great and wonderful. And the reality is that we simply don't know. We don't know. We think we know. If we set out, on a path of building a business, we set out on a path of having a relationship, we set on a path of raising money for charity, and things happen along the way that we are upset about, we're disappointed by, that aren't the things that we were hoping would happen. And as I was in the room at the end of this trip and thinking about things throughout the weekend, I just couldn't help but think of all of the things in the past year, Unblinded, the past 5 years, 10 years, and then 20, 30, 40 years, 45 years of my life seemed disappointing, upsetting, frustrating, or like that something was a failure. And it didn't, by not going the way I wanted it to. And then I began reflecting upon all of the consequences of those things. You've heard me tell the story, many of you, about my junior year in high school baseball and being really wronged politically and I had numbers that I thought would be all state. I certainly knew they would be all county. And because of political reasons against our high school, we won the league, and we got nobody in first team all league or second team all league, which is the craziest thing in the entire world. I mean, like unheard of. I mean, anybody who's put any sport on the line is like, what? We won the league championship, and we got nobody in first or second team all league. And so when that happened, I was so devastated, so upset, and almost didn't go to that tryout camp that led to me getting recruited by 100 Division I schools. But if I had been all county, if I had been all state, I never would have walked into that tryout camp the same way. With the urgency, the desire. I mean, I would have walked in confident, cocky. Every single kid at that place was basically all state, and nobody was in all county besides me. And same thing in Columbia, and so it drove me. And not only did that for me, it did like about 500 other things. But it laid down the groundwork for tons of future events, but which of course I couldn't, it's funny sometimes because people will say really kind things. And if I could tell you all the things I've forgotten or slipped in my own self-mastery. So even though I had that experience, to this day, I'll still be disappointed and feel a lot of emotion if things don't go the way I hoped or wanted. And it's a journey, it's a conditioning journey of life to get to the place of realizing, and remembering how many things didn't go that way and eventually served us because it fueled us, it fired us, right? But that's only one thing. A completely different thing, but related, a completely different thing under the umbrella of what happens when we don't get what we think we want. There are countless things that have happened that if they didn't happen, we wouldn't be on the phone line. Countless. My children wouldn't have had the experiences they did. My son's club baseball team, when it was coming apart, I didn't coach this team. It was like a paid program, baseball school, incredible players, and politics and division hit. Leadership was absent. Insanity ensued, and the team ripped apart. A team that when they were 11 years old, and on the tournament circuit, they went 2 wins and 15 losses. When they were 11, 2 wins and 15 losses. When he was in 8th grade, they won 4 tournaments, including this place in New Jersey called Diamond Nation, which is a top tournament destination on the East Coast, the Northeast Coast, north of Georgia. And they beat teams from all over the country. And right after that, the team ended. Right after that, which is its own long story in leadership and cause in leadership for a different conversation. Today's conversation, though, I was devastated. My son, I hugged and cried. We hugged the coach and cried. It was in some part to the absence, the lack of his mastering his leadership and succumbing to things he shouldn't have succumbed to, I think. But in reality, if he hadn't succumbed, then we don't start a club baseball team. And my son and I don't have the journey we did when it seemed impossible to do it. And the lives that were impacted and the things that occurred, the ripple effects were in the thousands. To this day, there's one of the kids on the team who's doing unbelievably, Division I college player, was involved in a national level COVID thing and faced expulsion, lost of a scholarship, and he did nothing wrong. And because, for one example, because that team ended, because my son's team ended, this young man's father passed away. An unbelievable kid with somebody who became a player on my team. And who would have thought that when my son's 14 and when they'll be 21 7 years later, and we built all the relationships we did all through high school and traveled the country, and again, thousands of ripple effects, that young man was facing fear and distortion and the potential, I never would say destruction, but what other people would say destruction in life and career. That's what some would say. To lose your scholarship, be kicked out of school, and be like the subject of that story in today's politically charged and insane environment. And so, and because he knew me, and I happen to know the best truthful, authentic crisis management PR person in the world, and I was able to get them on the phone and to get them involved, and they decided they would take the case because it was so disgusting and horrible what was happening. He ended up with nothing more than a slap on the wrist and his 10 apartment mates. And so the point of that is, if my son's baseball team, which I was trying to keep together, right, had stayed together, that kid gets expelled and changes his life forever. And tomorrow, we'll talk about how stuff played out over this weekend. But for today, the question for you is, what things have you wanted to go a certain way when you're 10, 14, 17 in C school, 21, 25, 32, 41, 50? What things did you desperately want to go a certain way that went a different way? And were very painful, very upsetting, maybe devastating. Things maybe you thought you couldn't get over. And you look back now and say, thank God. Thank God it went that way and it happened. I can't even imagine. And as we become present to that, now we are present to and stepping more into our beingness and our ability to disconnect these day-to-day dynamics and things as they serve us. We want to experience things. But if it's all just a story, let's have massive intentionality around the story. True story yesterday. I made an investment. This is a small one. And there was some friction around it for me. So I saw somebody that about 2 years ago, maybe almost 2 years ago, he was a nice guy, young kid, and he was raising money. I mean, but everybody was raising money here. Not everybody. I had so many people who were asking me to invest money and do things. And so this kid, was telling me how much he knew, and he's very persuasive. But he was like 27, 26, and he was raising this huge fund. He had graduated from an unbelievable school. I'll let you know all these people, but like, there's just so much, looseness and like what is happening, and what is happeningness going around. And so I said I would invest X, right? He sent the paperwork in. It was 2X of an investment, right? So I invested the first amount, and there's a certain level of like risk bucket where you want to be. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that was going on, right? And so he goes, okay, you owe still the other X. You've given X, but you owe another shot of X to give 2X. I'm like, what? And I'm like, I want my money back. I was upset. Like, I was furious, right, with what happened. And I felt defrauded. I felt he was taking my money, and like I was going to lose the money anyway. And I even did the first one really to be nice. I was having weak boundaries. And I'm like, ridiculous and insane. And we're talking not small amounts of money, you know. And so so I see him yesterday. Then we had, essentially made amends, and he's like, don't worry about the other acts, fine. But I really just had a bad taste in my mouth. So I see him yesterday, and he's like, oh, by the way, and he has such a level of certainty and confidence now. I've been hearing all the incredible things he's up to. He said, by the way, I just want to be clear that the fund that you're in, he goes, I'm raising a second fund of $250 million. I think his first fund was $20 million. And I'm like, you're doing what? So he's like, yeah, and we're almost done. Raising $250 million. I'm like, oh my God, congratulations. He goes, well, thank you, but congratulations to you. Because the first fund is returning 10x at a minimum. I said, I'll call him Joe. I said, Joe, the fund is returning 10x. He was like, yeah. So that would be, why, amount of money for you, what 10x was. And he just gave me a hug and said, congratulations. And I said, that's unbelievable. Like, he was like, yeah. And essentially, it's like I told you. And he walked away. And so we don't know. Like, we just don't know. 10 times your money in 3 years. Like, and don't go looking for that. By the way, guys, like, if somebody starts telling you that, it's crazy, and like, hold your wallet and run, right? So, but where is that for you? Where are these moments that in the moment you have pain, and looking back, you laugh and go, thank God it happened. And tomorrow we're going to lean in, and we're going to talk to a number of people here that are unblinded elite people to the extent they're up for it, ready. People like Patricia, Jack Tavares, Stacey Fredericks, Gina, Bella, and talk about some of the unbelievably powerful things that happened here and how they play into this very story. So with that, Fernando, Adam, let's go Fernando. Final, sir.
I have one final from me, Sean. I just thank you. I think everything through the prism of the formula and the access point is the modeling of you and how to receive those situations. So thank you for that today, because it gave me so many thoughts on times in my life that if not for them happening in a way I didn't wish for them to happen, I would not be here either. So once again, through the prism of the formula, the modeling of you has allowed me to know that the next time one of those situations happen, I'm going to be able to deal with them head on. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
No, thanks, AG. Thanks, AG. And thank you for saying you're modeling me. I mean, but what I would offer for people to model about me is the striving to get better in the formula. And there's so many ways I still can grow, especially in my self-mastery, because I can, get frustrated and disappointed in outcomes not going the way I want still. And we're all just rising our mastery and learning to see. But thank you. And I do receive that. And I offer just anchoring on, just commit to the formula. And I have never been more clear that the reason most things don't accelerate, don't stay together, is because the absence of a unifying formula, the formula. But the Navy SEALs work because they have a formula, right? It works because there's a formula. We don't have a formula for like unifying our country. We don't have a formula for making sure that there's truth in media on both sides. I mean, right now, basically, we have two different propaganda pages, propaganda meaning speaking from one point of view. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but if you compare the positive and negative things that each of those stations say about one side or the other, there is no journalism left, period. And I'm saying that without emotion. I'm saying it factually. The only thing I care about is you're able to function effectively in truth. And I mean, we're saying it's all a story anyway, yes. But having some objective reality matters. And when it's 100 negative for a positive for one side or the other on either side, there's a problem. Because focal distortion and illusion, and those are like Harvard numbers, not Sean Callaghan numbers. And when there's and by the way, Harvard, just to be clear, will be sitting on the left, and they're saying it about both sides, right? So, I mean, stations. So, if you look at that reality and you're charged by it, don't want to look at it, the question is why. And so what we anchor on here is truth. And truth is what allows us to make informed and intelligent decisions. And there's a difference between a feeling and a fact. It's a fact that it's whatever time it is. Now, the most enlightened could say that's even a story. Even our being here is a story. So let's save that for a year from now. Let's go build everything a little bit first, and then we'll have some time to think about that. But at its simplest, right? At its simplest, it is not a fact of who would be the better next president. There is no formula for that selection process. You could have yours and your opinion. There's no formula for who should be a federal judge or Supreme Court justice. There's no formula for how you pick your CEO. We have a formula, but there's not a perfect formula for how to make these types of decisions and selections. So they're subjective. When we rate somebody on a scale, it's still subjective. It's like rating a gymnast in the Olympics is different than timing Usain Bolt in the 100-meter dash. It's a fact. He ran a certain amount of time. It's objective. Subjective is, that was a wonderful routine, 9.8. That's subjective. And as we move into the subjective, there's opportunities for amazing distortion. Somebody could be like, I am more spiritual than you. I am more religious than you. That's subjective. I have more money than you is objective. I have less obligations in my schedule, time-wise. That's objective, right? And the reason a lot of people don't want to talk about money often is because it is very objective as a number. And we attach a lot of energy to it. Again, that's a story for next week, not this week, not next year, next week. And with all of it, anchoring on controlling the control, becoming aware of where you're addicted into the drama right now and what it's doing to your self-mastery, your action steps, and what you stand against and the charge that it's bringing to you and the distortions. Where are you distorted right now? As well as remembering what things have occurred that actually served you. That's what we got. So, Fernando, final, let's take it home.
There on that phone call, David Goggins said we're either dealing with it or we're avoiding with it. And I love the prism that you created there, Sean and Adam. I agree with everything you said. We do have the beautiful opportunity to model Sean the human. And one thing that I love about Sean that drew me to this movement originally is that it's not about Sean. It's not about a human. It's not about a selective person. Yes, Sean is in that leadership role now. We have chosen him to be so. Even he says it, pains and other dynamics in his life have come from him knowing he was out.
Adam,
what is that for you to do? Yes, we can hear you, Sean.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit.
You cut out. You cut out.
Yeah.
The beauty of Sean.
Got it. So I'll tie it back into a bow. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, Fernando, is that for all of us, it's not about a person, right? It's about a formula. And what I would add, though, is Fernando, Adam, and everybody here, you're a leader, causing leadership. Like, I'm not holding the post called, leader of Unblinded, right? Like, that's not an official post. You can be the leader, and you can create your own worlds within Unblinded. Like, there's the ability to create thousands of ecosystems within this ecosystem, tens of thousands. There's space for it all. It's a new world, a new canvas of how to do business and relate to each other. Like, how to do business and relate to each other. And Jack yesterday was saying, I'm talking to this tomorrow, like, Unblinded isn't a personal development platform. Unblinded is a state of being. Unblinded is a state of being. I'll pick up on that tomorrow. It is Mastery Monday. My heart goes out if you're in pain and suffering. Anybody you know is in pain and suffering from any of the dynamics that are occurring in the world, including including having an illness, needing treatment, feeling sad, feeling stress. And I remind you, and you can remind them, that there is a formula. And for some things, there isn't a formula. Well, there is a formula. For some things, there's not the formula to solve it. Sometimes the formula is just to have empathy, make peace, and be in our state of being of unconditional love with boundaries. Those are all things for you to put together and ponder. Have a beautiful ecosystem merge and mastering Monday. I am so grateful for you.